The concept of order gives me rest, identity, and inspiration. If that sounds weird to you, that's okay, because it sounds weird to me as well. And this video is about to get a lot more weird, but hopefully a little bit clearer by the end. Stay tuned. As you guys know, if you have been following my channel, I have been doing this video series of #Bible Resonance because I challenged myself this year to read the Bible cover to cover. I wanted to do this because I wanted to learn a bit more about the context of the bigger stories, about more the underlying narratives of the Bible, rather than just picking out one story and trying to interpret it without any kind of contextual evidence. That's, by the way, a good idea if you want to do whatever kind of research you want to do on whichever topic. It's always good to take something that helps you see the bigger picture behind what just the little part of the thing you want to learn something about. Also, as some of you guys might know about me, my life and my ways of becoming myself have been really not straight. They have been curvy and intertwined in all kind of different ways. I've studied two very different stuff, and I have been experiencing different cultures and different languages and in different countries. And I have been part of communities that seem to be kind of against each other. So I am the kind of person who always tries to push myself out of my comfort zone. I want to always try and learn new things and try and learn new perspectives on how people think, on how I think. And for some weird, very, very weird reason, I always like to see things as a coherent bunch of everything together, which pushes me to not be either on this side or on that side, but always trying to find a way to bring the ways together. And this is what I felt I would like also to do with my channel. A Voice Calling Out is all about trying to find the different experiences that we humans have and bring it in a way that it all makes sense. And since I'm this kind of weird person that always tries to find these kind of things, and I have a huge passion about sharing them, here we go again. So as I'm filming this, I've read the first 4 books of the Bible. These are also the first 4 books of Moses out of 5. And what happened up to this point is creation happened, election of one certain peoples out of the many peoples that exists to be God's one people happened. The explanation to why that happened, it did not happen yet. The oppression of those people happened. The calling out to be saved happened. The answering of that call happened. God saved them and then brought them out of their land. And before bringing them into their new land, he gave him laws, rules, about which I talked in another video. Check those out. Check that out. And now what happened in the last book that I've read is that God, besides of giving the people rules, laws, he also gave them certain ways of how to organize their country, certain ways of how to bring order in the country. So you could say he ordered, gave them orders about how to bring order. And this activity of bringing order into creation, if you want to say, or into a country or into a home, is what I want to talk about today. I want to tell you what I see in the Bible happening, what I understand by this, and why this is so encouraging for me personally, and hopefully for you as well. So this is what happens in the book, in the 4th book of Moses, the way I'm reading it. This book is called Numeri, or Numbers in English, if you are interested. And this is how I see what happened there. I see that God seems to be putting things in order in the whole structure of the society of Israel, which is a thing that he does by telling each tribe what its function should be, who should be the leader, what should the leaders do, what is the different function of the priests and Levites. people who usually work around the temple of God and perform these priestly things like sacrifices and stuff like that, and how everything should work together in a way that it creates a well-oiled machine of ancient society. And what I find very interesting about this book is that it seems to read like a how-to manual, like how to build a house. Start with the foundation and then go up from there. How to have, I don't know, how to have relationships. Well, start by working on yourself. And this is also, this book kind of reads like how to have a well-functioning society. Well, you need people who do this job, and then you need people who do this job, and then you need people who do this job, and then here's how it's going to work all together. So in the whole book, it just seems like God is just obsessed with putting things in order. Like everything should be where it is supposed to be. So much like Marie Kondo, in fact. And I was like, what's your obsession with order, God? Are you like Marie Kondo and just find joy in it? It's like, what's that? And then I realized, wait, this is not the first time that I'm seeing this. I seem to remember that the whole creation story is also about ordering. It's like, what do we need first in the world? Light. Let there be light. And then it was. And then, okay, what's the next thing that we need? Well, we need to have waters in one place and land on the other place. So we don't mix the two, so that the waters can be called oceans and the land would be good enough for people to live on it. Like, okay. So what God was doing in a creation was just putting things in the order. According to the story in Genesis, it's not so much as, and this is how it happened, but it's much more like, and this is what God did with these things. And also he says, so let there be light. Okay, what is light for? Oh, light is there to show people when to sleep and when to be awake. Okay. And also when they have holidays, which is also a good thing to know. So it really seems to me that God likes order, just like Marie Kondo and just like me. All jokes aside though, it really seems to me that for us to be able to function as humans, we need order. And I see that everywhere I look in my life. I see that, for example, in order for me to, this is also how we use our language, interestingly. So in order for me to be able to function in my home, to be able to do my work in my home, I need my home to be at least a certain amount of ordered. I need structures, so I know what's expected of me. If I know, for example, in my job, what are my responsibilities, and there's an order that allows me to work, then I can really just put myself in my work and do the things that I was called to do or is in my job description to do. But if not, I will always be distracted or even maybe have an obstacle to do things that I should be doing, because I will always be on my way to try to find my way through the clutter, either physically in my house if my house is cluttered, or just as a metaphor for all the things that sometimes we need to go through so we are able to really work the way we should. So basically I really am seeing that for whatever things that we need to be doing, we need to have a certain order that allows us to do the things that we are doing. And wherever I see and wherever I look, I realize that order, where it exists, it pushes, it helps life, it helps productivity, it helps our work, it helps our development as people. And disorder destroys all that, or is at least an obstacle in achieving the different kind of goals that we have. So let me make it clear to you what I mean and what I don't mean by order. So my definition of order is things being as they should be, functioning according to their function, and generally having this feeling that everything is in order, that everything functions and is where it should be. A car starting up when you switch the ignition key or press the button if you're that way inclined, that's order. A car blowing up when you do the same things, it's disorder. Your parents loving you and caring for you and educating you, that's order. Your parents abusing you, that's disorder. Order for me just personally means knowing who you are and function according to who you are. Knowing what to say yes to, because those are things that follow out of who you are on any level. And disorder is saying yes to the things that do not follow from who you are. For example, for me, order means writing in the morning for two reasons. First, I like to write. I'm a creative person, so writing is order for me. And second, I'm a morning person. I really only function very well until a certain point in time, and that's around 4 p.m. So writing in the morning is order for me. Doing anything after 8 or 9 p.m. at night is disorder. Like, just ask anybody. You can really realize that point in my day when I just go from I'm here to I'm not here anymore. I'm just thinking about going to sleep. And that's order. Now, what I don't mean is that order is rigidity. Because you see, I understand order as being something as pertaining to relationships. And relationships cannot be rigid in order to work. Like, in order to work, you have to know that even in the order, there is a certain flexibility. What I mean by that, if you, for example, are a night owl or a night person, which means that your circadian rhythm works in a way that you're more awake in the evening, in the late hours of the evening or until late at night, and you're really not functioning well in the morning, then writing in the morning would be disorder for you. So what I mean by order is not something that one rule applies to all. But what I mean by order is that there is a certain way that works best. And that can be individual, and for some things it can be general. Like, for example, I really think there's a general order that in order for humans to function the best way that they can is that they feel loved. I don't think there's an exception from this rule. And I think that there's much disorder coming from not abiding by this rule, if you want to. So why does this mean so much for me? Well, first of all, because in my line of work as a psychologist, I work a lot with the word disorder, which means something different in psychology, obviously, than just in this whole philosophical way that I'm talking about. But disorder is something that always creates pain and suffering, either for the person who has a disorder, who is in a disorder, or people who are around these kinds of disorders. And I see disorder happening to people who have suffered disordered things being done to them, who somehow have their identity all scrambled up, or somehow people did disordered things to them, or just generally living in a world that is just completely screwed up. And secondly, I also see in the zeitgeist of the time and the culture of the Western culture that we live today, there is a lot of trying to bring new order into the world because we think that the one before is not good enough. An idea of which I am sympathetic, by the way, and I feel the same thing. And I see this wish and this energy in my generation to bring new order to stuff. And the thing is, we all kind of do it in different ways, and we all have different ideals and different visions, and sometimes they clash. But what I see is that in all of us, there's this desire for order. I see, just on the example of feminism, I see women saying, stop it. Stop being unfair to us. And this, for me, is is a movement that tries to bring new order into the world. And I applaud that. That's great. And then seeing that, and I go back to these ancient scriptures that have been written so long ago and have connotations that for today's mind and God, it just feels a bit scrambled. And I see in there a God depicted as the God of order, and not just in one place. I'm realizing this. I have seen through many different aspects of scriptures that there is a God who has on his heart the desire to bring order into this world. And when I see this God, I feel such a closeness to him, because I feel in me the desire for order. I see in me the happiness that brings to me when things are Marie Kondo approved. Not just in materially as how my stuff looks like, but generally in my life, in my work life, in my home life, in my family life, in my relationships, in my marriage. I see how much harmony brings in my life to know that things are as they're supposed to be. And I don't always know that, and I'm not saying that the way things are supposed to be for me is the same as they are supposed to be for you. I'm just saying that as a human, I respond to order positively. And when I see a God who is heart bent on bringing order, then I see someone who is heart bent on responding to the desires of my heart, to the needs of my heart, and to the needs of the hearts of many. And here's the thing, whenever I talk about God to people who don't necessarily believe in him, or just are generally not the kind of people who live by a certain kind of faith, they always seem so rejecting of this idea of a God who orders the universe. And whenever we talk about this a little bit more, I realize that the reason for that is not the need for order itself, because we all have it, and I see that in them as well, because we all as humans are trying to bring order in our lives. I see that, but it's more the idea of having an order that comes from without rather than from within. And we are, as humans, I think, generally a bit on the defensive when someone from outside tries to set rules or orders by which we should abide. And I definitely feel the same way. Sometimes or most of the times, I just really don't like the idea of living according to not my own set of rules. And I think that is really a part of our human experience. I think that as humans, we have a little God in us, in the sense that we always want to be more like God, or just God generally, and that's why we always want to make our own rules. This is one thing. And the other thing that I realized is that the orders, or the order that God created, I think he put in our hearts. So whenever we work toward realizing how does this order looks like in our life, then, and if we find it, we have this deep resonance with it. That's so huge that it feels like coming from within. This is my belief. I believe that all of us are created by God. So if God loves order and we love order, it's really something that he put in our hearts and in our desires. In a way, it's like me liking sports is something that my dad also did, so it connects me to him. So for me, seeing this as something that my creator put in my heart, this love for order and this desire for order, it makes me feel more connected to him. And again, this is something that in my experience has been such a wonderful thing to realize. Whenever I strive to find what this created order means personally and individually for me, and I work towards it, I realize that it kind of feels like it comes from within because it's been in there all along. It's like resonating with who you are when you finally found yourself, because it has always been there, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't put there before by someone else. I really take a huge amount of strength out of this thought. And finally, this idea of order is something that gives me rest, identity, and inspiration. How does that happen? Well, it gives me rest because I realize that the weight of the world is not on my shoulder. I know, you know that already, but sometimes I really feel like I have to work or I have to do stuff like people would literally die if I wouldn't do that. And that's such a huge pressure. And this is why, when I remember again the creation story, where I really think that the 7-day narrative has to do with this aspect. And that being that God designated that each 7th day we take a rest. And He went on and created us on the 6th. So that our creation starts with rest. Not because we are so tired, but because in order to show us that all the hard work, all the creating of the whole universe has already been done. So all you need to do is, after you rest, and remember to always come to rest, at least every 7th day, you go on and you do what you are supposed to be doing, because the hard work has already been done. That's order for me. God already put everything in order, so I don't have to take this weight upon my shoulders to realize where things go in reality. I only have to figure out where they go in my reality and how that all works together. So that really gives me rest. Order also gives me identity by showing me where my place is in this whole order. Going back to how Numbers is written, there it said priests will do that and that and that, and warriors will do that and that and that, and all the people would do different things. So there is a place for each and every one of us. And this is where it's really so paradoxical, because I think my whole life and your whole life is about discovering and living who you really are. So in a way, you are discovering it at the same time as doing it. I interpret that as, this is who you are. Discover it. It's in you. So work hard towards realizing who that is and how does that work for you. So this is how it gives me identity. And it gives me inspiration. It gives me such a huge inspiration to do my part in working out the order in the world on my level, on the level of a human, of a creation who is also a creator in some ways, but not in the same ways as God. I think we all have this spark of creation in us where we just show it by all the things that we are doing. Also, partly this is why I'm creating this video, because I feel part of my essence is bringing order into this world by just giving you guys these ideas from my mind. Maybe you resonate with them, maybe not, but in any case, this is me becoming myself. And this inspiration comes from what I see in these ancient weird scriptures. This is my reflection kind of on the 4th book of Moses. I would have never expected that something like this would come to me. Does this inspire you? Does order inspire you? What does inspire you? I would really love to hear about that in the comment section. If you like this video or this kind of content, do not forget to subscribe to this channel, because I would really love to be more in contact with you guys. And see you next time. And until then, take good care of yourselves, guys. Bye!